Development at Emmaus House, and Kenya and her husband Malcolm sometimes worship with us here at the Cathedral, especially if you get up early and come to the 7:45 Eucharist in Michael Chapel. You may see their smiling faces. And Joe Iarocci, a parishioner here, along with his wife Laura and children at the Cathedral for many years. Joe has not too long ago become the interim executive director of Emmaus House. So without further ado, welcome to all three of you. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. Oh, let's try that again. Good morning. Good morning. It is indeed a pleasure and joy to be with you all here this morning, and thank you so much for your continued support of Emmaus House and all of our ministries throughout the years. We are just so appreciative of your care and your attention to a ministry which has been in this diocese for over 55 years. I want to start this morning and just tell you a bit about how I came to know and love Emmaus House. Just a short story. In 2013, I moved to Atlanta to attend Candler School of Theology. And probably 6 months before I was actually going to relocate, I had no idea where I was going to live as a graduate student. And taking into consideration the high price of rent, et cetera, I was really in a bit of a quandary. Well, at any rate, my aunt actually was moving out of her condo, which is not too far from that Krog Street area, and she offered me the opportunity to live there for free for the course of my studies at Candler. And that is just how God works, right? That is just how God works. And I knew my neighbor, and on occasion after work, we would chat and get to know each other and exchange stories of the day. Well, come to find out, my neighbor was the then executive director of Emmaus House, Joseph Mole. And we talked, and he asked me about my background. I said I'm an educator. I'm in school at Candler. And when I graduated from Candler, he offered me the opportunity to do some consulting for Emmaus House during the time between graduating from Candler and ordination. And so that was my first contact and exposure to, opportunity to fall in love with Emmaus House and all the people of Peoplestown, the families, the children especially. Fast forward 4 years from that point, on a crisp December day, as I was in somewhat of a transition in my ministry, I gathered up the gifts that we had collected to drop off for Emmaus House's Christmas Eve festival. And I walk into the administrative building, and my good friend Greg Cole was there, and he invited me into his office, and he informed me that the director of education would retire at the end of the summer. And offhandedly, he says, "Would you be interested in that?" And I said, "Well, I'll discern and talk to me in the new year." And we talked in the new year, and after some discernment and getting permission from the right people, such as the bishop, the outcome of that was my position at Emmaus House currently. But most importantly, regardless of the role that I have had at Emmaus House over the course of the years, I have been so moved and impressed by the community, by their resilience, by the family orientation of the folks that live in that community. I've been impressed by the way everyone gathers around families and individuals who are in need, the way that neighbors take care of neighbors. And I am, so honored just to be a part of Emmaus House, who continues in that work and continues to facilitate that work. As some of you may know, Father Austin Ford founded Emmaus House in 1967. And it's not an accident that we are called Emmaus House. I'm not sure exactly when Father Ford or someone else came up with that name, but it was certainly inspired by the scripture. And in the 24th chapter of Luke, it recounts the story of two of Jesus's disciples who were on their road, on their way to Emmaus, which was a village outside of Jerusalem. And as they're walking along their path, a stranger joins them. They had no idea who this stranger was. They were so caught up in the drama. That drama was Jesus was not in the tomb. So you have these two guys walking along, and a stranger comes up, and I can just imagine they were happy, maybe, not really sure what's going on. They had some anxiety, but I can imagine there's a lot of mixed emotions, not really understanding how to interpret the fact that Jesus was no longer where he was laid to rest. Well, at any rate, they continue on their journey and they make it to Emmaus. Jesus decides to stay with them for the evening. He sits down at the table with the disciples. He took the bread, he blessed it, he broke it, and at that point, they knew who Jesus was. Jesus met the disciples right where they were as they were traveling along. For more than 55 years, that has been the work of Emmaus House, to meet people right where they are, in whatever type of predicament they may be in, the conditions they may be living with, the joys, the challenges, the ups and the downs. That has been the work of Emmaus House. It's looked many different ways over the years. We've had several programs, several types of different ministries, but consistently, Emmaus House has been a place for people to find hope, for people to find practical resources, for people to even have shelter at some point. It's been a place of celebration and of great joy as well. Well, thanks to Father Austin Ford, we are what we are today. Well, after serving at St. Luke's and at St. Bart's, where Father Ford was the founding rector, he moved into Peoplestown, into a dilapidated house. Rumor has it that he would ride his bike around the neighborhood and make every effort to get to know people. And if you can imagine that sight, years and years and years ago, when there were only pretty much African Americans in Peoplestown. But he wanted everyone to know that he wasn't just dropping by to visit, that he wanted to get to know people, he wanted to build relationships, he wanted to understand the needs of the community. So with the help of two nuns and a seminary student, he gathered resources for different programs. He started an after-school program. They provided transportation to Reedsville Prison for families who had loved ones who were incarcerated. There were chapel services, and he also started the Poverty Rights Office. And that is just a very, very brief history of Emmaus House. We could talk all night about Emmaus House and its place in Peoplestown. Now, Peoplestown today looks differently than it did 20, 30 years ago. Peoplestown, like many areas, has experienced gentrification, which is very exciting on one hand, and a lot of the neighbors and the longtime residents in Peoplestown are actually excited about the gentrification, and they love the fact that they now have a Publix grocery store and there's a Mexican restaurant down the street. However, at the same time, it has been a challenge for homeowners in terms of the ability to pay their property taxes. It has been a challenge for families who are renting or who were renting homes, and the homeowner decided to sell the home and they could no longer afford the rent, nor were they in the position to buy the home that they were renting. And so we continue to be present in Emmaus House and to try to provide families in housing dilemmas with resources, with advice, with direction. And we have, for example, a limited amount of rental assistance for families. One of the most, I guess, satisfying parts of the work that I do at Emmaus House is working with children and their families. And I'm sure you all have heard about our Freedom School program that is sponsored by the Children's Defense Fund. And I realized the other day that next summer will be our 10th year partnering with the Children's Defense Fund to hold Freedom School. And so look forward to something. I'm not sure what yet, but look forward to a way to celebrate and recognize that as an accomplishment. Just a little bit about the Children's Defense Fund's Freedom School. It is a literacy-based program for students in grades kindergarten through 8th grade. And for 6 weeks during the summer, kids come to our campus. This past summer, we had 80 kids, and the mornings are focused on literacy and reading. Do we have any teachers in the room or any educators, retired or current? Retired or current, okay. Well, during the summer, our children have the tendency not to want to read. Can you imagine that? They don't want to do any work. They don't want to read. And so they experience what we call summer slide. And so a lot of the progress that they gain during the year can be lost if they don't read during the summer. And at the same time, we also know for communities like Peoplestown, there's a good amount of parents who also may not be as strong as they could be or should be in terms of literacy. And so they may not have parents or a parent that is able to read to them. And so that is one of the purposes of Freedom School, is to pull those kids in, to get them reading and engaged in books, and to prevent them from starting school behind. And the books that the kids read are simply amazing. They are not, books about geography or books about things that maybe kids would not be interested in. Most of our books that we have for the students have themes around social justice, around things like homelessness, around race, around LGBTQ issues, all types of things that mirror our society. And so the kids love these books. Their lessons are centered around these books. One evening last summer, we invited the parents in to actually select books for their children. And boy, were they excited. I mean, they had never seen such beautiful books in their whole life. And we also have to remember that books, the really interesting books are pretty pricey, right? And so they were so happy to get the books. And so part of our work is not just with the kids, but it's also with parents. Because what we want to do is we want to foster a love of reading. So it's not something that kids are hesitant to do, it's something that they love to do. And we continue to do that good work during the summer. Just in terms of statistics, every summer we pre-test about 35 of our scholars. At the end of the program, we give them a post-test. Consistently, for the past 10 years, over 90% of our scholars either maintain their current reading level or increase, or if they gain an instructional reading level. And so that's amazing, right? That is totally awesome. But most importantly, to see a student that starts in June not really wanting to have a lot to do with a book or with reading, but to see them asking to take books home at the end of the program, that's really, really wonderful. It really is. Sometimes I grew up with books all over the place, and sometimes, we take that for granted, but it's really wonderful. And we also have the data to prove that the program works with our kids. In addition to reading, we offer enrichment in the afternoons. That can look a number of different ways. We went to visit the Atlanta Community Food Bank. Sometimes we do fun stuff like go to the aquarium. Thanks to the Cathedral, we were able to take a trip to the aquarium actually this summer, and the kids had the time of their lives. It was hard to get them out of there. It was hard. They wanted to take pictures with the different characters that were, coming out dressed up like dolphins and things like that, but we really had a great time with that. We had a phenomenal staff this summer for Freedom School. Oftentimes we get our teachers from colleges, universities, Spelman, Morehouse, Clark, Kennesaw State. Sometimes we have teachers who are currently teaching or currently counseling in the Atlanta public school system or in Cobb County. I must say that this summer our team was truly intergenerational. Our youngest teacher was 19 and our oldest teacher was 62. And she was a second-year first grade teacher. And she just did an amazing job, and that was just powerful. In addition to Freedom School, we also have an after-school program called Youth on the Move, and that has been in place, for about 6 years now. The after-school program is for students in grades 6 through 12. So that's middle school and high school students. And that focus is on tutoring, that focuses on homework help. There are enrichment activities. Some are more recreational, like boxing. We've had some more vocational related activities such as, what did we have? We had hair braiding, for example. Cosmetology, things like that, recognizing that while we do have college planning and career planning, that some students are interested in things like cosmetology and other vocations. And those are also wonderful careers for people to engage in their lives. One of the main differences with the programs is that, and you'll be shocked by this, middle school and high school students don't like a whole lot of structure. They like to kind of be on their own, but our program director does a wonderful job thinking of creative activities and people to bring into the program to teach them, to talk with them, to mentor them, to guide them, et cetera, and to just encourage them. High school and junior high school is a lot different for a lot of different reasons these days than it was maybe, 10, 20 years ago. We have career speakers come in to talk with the students. And at the end, for every graduating senior, the director of the program puts together a post-high school plan. So they have some direction. For a few of the kids, it's college. For others, it might be, I'm gonna take a year off and get a job. A lot of our kids are very concerned with earning money. They have families and they know they need money. And so sometimes it's hard to convince them that college is the way to go directly after school. Even though families are supportive of that, there's a lot of education that we have to do with families for their kids to get to college. Some of the students are just bound and determined to find a way to earn a living, basically, for their families. And so we want to make sure we're there to support them as well. In addition to, Youth on the Move, and we have the Freedom School program. During the year, we also have other activities going on around education. We partner with a few churches in the diocese, and through that partnership, we supply tutors to the local elementary school, which is the Barack and Michelle Obama Academy. We don't typically have a lot of tutoring and things going on the weekends, but during the week, we could also assist students who might need, one-on-one help outside of Youth on the Move. Pretty much when people knock on our door, we try to meet them where they are. So if we don't offer it, we make every effort to refer them to an organization or an individual who can provide them with the assistance that they need. I think that wraps up educational programs. So I'll talk just a couple of minutes about the Christmas Eve Festival. For several years, we have had a children's Christmas Eve festival at Emmaus House. It is a fun-filled event in which we basically collect toys. And thanks to the generosity of the Cathedral and other churches, we get so many toys, you guys. I mean, you're wrapping and you think it's never gonna end. And, but it is a joyful time, and there's a small group of women in the neighborhood who have wrapped gifts for decades. And they take such joy and pride in getting together and wrapping these gifts and, staying up till 10 o'clock and wrapping. And it's just a fun time. Opportunities to volunteer. If you want information about those opportunities, you can just go to our website and my information is listed. But most importantly, it shows a community that we care, that their neighbors far and near care about them and the well-being of their children. For some of the families, the gifts that they receive at the Christmas Eve festival may be the only gifts that they get under the Christmas tree. For other families, it means that, they'll have a few extra gifts. But we're also, we're very intentional about having a festival. And it's not just a giveaway. It's a morning of fun, of treats for the kids, and, we give them hot chocolate and sweet things, and then we send them home to their families after they sit with Santa. We have Santa and Mrs. Claus. Clint DeVoe, he's been Santa for the past several years, and May Helen, she's a member of the community. She's been Mrs. Claus for the past, for several years, and Mrs. Claus actually got a brand new Mrs. Claus outfit last year. It took some convincing to get her to wear it, and we were all wondering, we're like, this is a beautiful outfit. Well, someone gifted her first Mrs. Claus outfit, and so she had a sentimental attachment to it, although it was kind of falling off her because she lost a bunch of weight. But at any rate, so Christmas Eve Festival, Youth on the Move, Freedom School, there are just so many ways that you can support the families and the kids of Peoplestown and the close communities, and we appreciate your support. I'm going to invite my friend, David Lee, to come up next and talk a bit about the Help Center.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Forgive me. So I see so many people that I know already. Actually, one of our volunteers is sitting right here, Mr. Harris. He comes over on Monday. I know, right? You need to stand up. You're wearing our shirt, man. You got to show us. So he comes on Mondays. Great driver. He actually starts unloading trucks now. So I have to try to hide out a little bit so they can get it all unloaded before I come outside. And it feels so much better when it's there. That's not really true. I don't do that for real. So I want to tell you a little bit about the Low Key Center. You guys know our programs, right? We have an amazing food pantry. We do identification for individuals that are unsheltered. Also, people that were recently released from jail or prison. The verb is not going to come out at that point. We also have SSI benefits. We have 2 volunteers that come over on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they provide any individual with the opportunity to apply for Social Security benefits. That can be earned, survivor, children that are dealing with behavior or mental health issues also can receive that benefit as well. We also are so excited about a new venture we're taking in October. We're going to start our workforce development program, but we're working with another organization to do so, right? If you look at the Peoplestown neighborhood and what happens there, So many people want to, they may be employed, but they're underemployed, right? They make money, but not enough to actually survive on a monthly basis. So our goal is to bring in ACSS, which is a company that's located in Atlanta. It's Atlanta Center for Self-Sufficiency. So the whole goal is for them to start our own workforce development program. Job opportunities, financial literacy, they're gonna offer a match savings account for anyone that comes in up to $500 a month. So which is really good, so I'm grateful for that opportunity. One of the most important things that we're dealing with right now is our food pantry. There is such a need. On a weekly basis, we get a request about 10 to 15 families. These are new individuals that are coming in for actually food. Our challenge is our pantry is by appointment only. So they may call on a Monday, they cannot get an appointment until that next Monday or that Friday. Their need is already gone, right? So my desire is to try to offer food more frequently, but we have to be able to source that food. So we can't source that if we can't find it. When we can't find it, when we do find it, we gotta pay for it, right? So it's not my push to ask for more money, Joe, or anything of that nature. But I want to be able to do more in the neighborhood where we are. I've only been at Emmaus House a little bit over a year now, and it has been such a joy to actually see it grow just in the short period of time I've been there. We started I call it a pop-up food pantry. So every month we have about 300 families to come through and they get additional food. We work with the Atlanta Community Food Bank and they bring a truckload of vegetables and produce and fruits and a big bin of very random stuff that we don't know what it is. We have to sort through it and then we disseminate it to the folks that are coming through the neighborhood. The other good thing about that is throughout the month and a half of planning, I'm able to secure additional protein. We always think about the produce and vegetables that our folks get, but a lot of them really need the protein piece so they can stretch that more so. So my ideal and my goal is to monthly look for a place where I can buy it and then store it until the day that we need it. So speaking of that, the next one that we're having is on September the 6th. So next Friday or 2 Fridays. If you guys want to come out and volunteer, it starts at 12 noon. If you want to get there by 11, wear some tennis shoes, some shorts. I'll even get you a t-shirt. So you can have a t-shirt that looks like that. And you'll get to see what we do, right? We use the education building. It's a drive-through. We set up tents. Volunteers, they drive through one side, go out the other side. They don't get out of their car at all. We do all the work, put it in their car for them, and then they're gone. Any questions about the Low Key Center? None? So before I stop though, St. Veronica's Guild, they do this amazing thing for us on a monthly basis. We get personal hygiene products from you guys, right? We get everything from soap, razors, period products, can I say that? I had to make sure I could. I come from a Baptist church, so. Yeah, loud and proud, okay. So we do period products and everything else across the board for the women in the neighborhood. We also work with Helping Mamas, which is located in Norcross, Georgia. We get Pampers, we get so many things for babies and children. We get books, we get baby food, we get strollers, we get car seats, and all this stuff is fun because it's all donated to us at the Emmaus House. It's at no cost. We just have to go pick it up, right? Pick it up, bring it back, and disseminate it. Unfortunately, we get Pampers on a Monday. They're gone by the next Monday. And I'm talking 750 to 800 Pampers. The need is so great that I try to go back monthly, at least twice a month. And you're really only supposed to go once, but I've kind of built this rapport with some people who work there. So they let me kind of come through the back door when we need it a little bit more. It's all about building relationships, keep that in mind. Any other questions? Oh, yes, ma'am.
My question is, will you take car seats and high chairs and things like that that are used?
We do take those.
It's hard to donate them anywhere, and I've got a garage full.
Wait, how many do you have first though?
I've got a lot
Yeah, you can do that. And what happens is we have a lot of families that come in, they have newborns, and they don't have car seats, they don't have strollers. So if you want to get together afterwards and I can give you my information, I can even pick them up or you can drop them off as well. Let me go over here and I'll come back. Yes, ma'am. Oh, she wants you to go first.
Just had a question. Do you need volunteers to help you go physically up the product to transport it to
For which one? For helping my, any,
for the baby product? Any of that? Do you need volunteers that you're missing a gap in there that you need people to help you with that?
those are pretty easy because what happens, we do a pre-order and once I get there, it's already boxed up and I just load it into the back of a truck. Yeah, but we do need volunteers sometimes when we pick up other food products. So I can definitely give you my information as well.
David, just real quickly, I am wondering, in terms of things like feminine hygiene products, diapers, and things, I understand you get a lot of these from organizations like Helping Mamas. If people here in this room wanted to give in some way, would it be more helpful for us to channel financial contributions to you as opposed to a drive for products?
It,
Does the money go further, in other words, than
it, it, it really just depends. I think when we get money, we're able to actually cater to what the neighborhood needs more so. If not, I'll give you a list of everything that we need, but if we have the financial part of it, then it's easier just to go out and buy it because it's going to be the same cost. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, it would be. But also, drives are always good. I love when you can get a community involved. So they get the opportunity to, one, help, in some cases, clean out the pantry, right? But also, because I have generated a list, it shows the most popular items that our neighbors need. So I can send that information out to you guys as well. Yep. Any other questions? Thanksgiving at home, November the 26th this year. If you guys have never been involved with it, it's a really cool project that we do. We have all the churches, we send out a list of items that we have. Normally it's chicken broth, everything to make a Thanksgiving dinner. We source the turkeys from another location. You guys donate all of the sides. They sign up, they come through, we drop it off, they get it, they go home and make their Thanksgiving dinner. I always send that information out by the end of next week. Because the sooner we start the process, the easier it is for me to get it done. Any other questions? So, I'm going to turn this over to Joe, who's been with us for, 5 months now? It seems like 5 months. It's been, 3? 3 weeks?
Thank you, sir. It's a joy. I have 2 sign-up sheets. If anyone, can we send these to Frank, my usher colleague? Send that around. If you want to be on our mailing list and find out about all the good, keep up with all the good things we're doing, there's a pencil in there and it's a sign-up sheet. So I'm Joe Iarocci. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of Emmaus House. See, I'm just making sure you're still awake with that, right? Okay, good. Very good, very good. Raise your hand if you have ever volunteered at Emmaus House. Wow, look at all this. Wow, 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 wow. You in the front. And raise your hand if you've ever been employed by Emmaus House. Oh, wow, okay, wow, wow, wow. If George were here, George was the rector in his first assignment after seminary at Emmaus House. Did you know that? No. And Ann Fowler, some of you remember Ann Fowler, she worked there. And Sam Candler told some stories of volunteering when he was a young guy. My wife says that they used to, have you ever heard of S&H green stamps? Anybody? Used to lick. Can you imagine that now? They don't lick anything now. Did you not? You licked S&Ps and put them in books so that Emmaus House could buy a bus, as the story goes. And Sam Candler himself used to lick S&H cream. So, all this history. So I'll say quickly, and then we'll take some last questions, and we'll be done. I was serving as the interim CEO of an organization called MedShare earlier this year, and that assignment was coming to an end, and I got a call from George and said, hey, are you still doing that interim work? I said, yeah. He says, have you ever heard of Emmaus House? I said, yes, I have. My wife volunteered there when she was a young girl. And he said, would you be interested in, the executive director has left, would you be interested in stepping in for a little while they do a search? And I said, sure. And it was the easiest job I've ever got, because that was Tuesday, and Thursday I was chit-chatting with the bishop, and at the end of the chat he said, we need your picture. It's not official till it's on the website. That was it. That was the whole interview. So I'm doing that now, and it's been great working with Kenya and David Lee and the whole team. One thing, the last word I'll say is we're thinking about the future. You know, Emmaus House is close to 50 years old, and think back 5 years, right? 5 years. What was that? It was 2019, right? That was before. But okay. Think back 10 years. 10 years ago, what was that? That was 2014, right? Got that right? Where were you just pause for a moment, right? Think back 20 years ago. 41 years. I was married in this cathedral 41 years ago. Yeah. My point of all this is the world is changing, and my sense is it's changing faster and faster. And I used to think that, I was pretty good with that. I have to work harder. When Laura and I bought this house, one of our houses, we had such foresight. We decided we would wire the whole house with Cat5 cable because we knew computers were really coming on, and to have every room hardwired would show that we were so ahead of the game. And in fact, we never plugged one thing into that Cat5 cable ever. But that's, it's true, right? By the time the house was renovated, the wireless was all in there. So anyway, okay, the point is, we're thinking about the future at Emmaus House. The neighborhood, if you've ever, used to go down to the stadium or something, that neighborhood is remarkably changing. I mean, it's just remarkably changing. And Atlanta's changing, Peoplestown is changing, Georgia's changing, the world is changing. So we've got to change too. We've got to remain relevant to people, and we've got to remain, innovative. So we're going to start through the rest of this year. I'm trusting some strategic planning for Emmaus House, and so that's, you'll probably be hearing more about that as time goes on, I hope. The two most important elements of that, one is to listen to what people say. I mean, I've been in the nonprofit world a long time. We tend to think we are so smart. And the leaders often, not always, but often, they think, well, I know more than everybody else around me, including the people I serve. And so we're not gonna be like that. We're gonna listen to the folks in Peoplestown and the people that we serve, and that'll guide our process. And the other is to remain innovative and flexible, because we don't want to wire Emmaus House with Cat5 cable, and when we're done, right, that something has shifted and it's of no use to us. So we're going to start into that. David Lee, Kenya, me, and the team, and so I trust probably within a few months we'll come back and tell you a little bit more about what we're doing. George, you want to say anything? I was shouting you out a little bit earlier. You were the rector in your first assignment after seminary at Emmaus House. Are you coming up here? What are you doing?
Thanks for doing this. So I did serve as interim director of Emmaus House, and we did change a lot because it is, as Joe said, changing at such a rapid pace. But the cathedral has been engaged with Emmaus House over the years to really wonderful results for us, as we have learned to listen and to be present down there. So I'm excited about this team, who are incredible, allowing us to be more engaged with them financially, but also personally. So I just encourage you, when the time comes, to think about ways that you can be involved in Emmaus House. Is that what you wanted me to say? Yeah, that's great. Okay, can I have my 20 now? Yeah. No.
Put it on my account. All right. David, Lee, and Kenya are here because you will have, if you have more Q's, they will have the A's, right? Yes, you in that that's a handsome shirt. That's a handsome shirt.
Sure, I'm Harris Allen here. I sing in the choir, and I'm also a volunteer with Emmaus House. I love working with the people there. It's really quite lovely. And I encourage folks to do, if you can, to connect with them. It's really, I find it's one of the high points of my week when I do this, okay? Kenya was talking about how Emmaus House is in the middle of a sea of huge change. The gentrification, and David Lee, the gentrification that's going on there is incredible. My question to you is, Emmaus House needs to interface with this changing community in which it's located. And I'm just wondering your thoughts about how you are fostering that set of relationships with the people that are coming in.
Sure.
So how are we fostering relationships with our new neighbors? Is that, yes. Yeah, and so that is a great question. I think that one thing that we have been intentional about is, I guess, the invite. There are some different businesses in the neighborhood, just sort of getting out there, talking with business owners, letting them know that we are here. It is interesting because a few years ago, 2 years ago, when my husband and I were looking for a home, I went to they're developing an area, and I was talking with them about what we were looking for. They did not even realize Emmaus House was in the community, right? They had no idea what those buildings were on the corner of Hank Aaron and Haygood Street. So part of that is just being in the community and walking around and making friends, and again, inviting people. We have a partnership with a group or an organization called Mimi's Yoga Kids, and the things that she has are open to the entire community. And so right now it's really some grassroots type of things, like literally giving out flyers and things like that. But we are still thinking about ways that we can get I don't want to say old neighbors, we can get the lifetime neighbors and the new neighbors together. So maybe a community, cookout or things of that nature. And certainly that's one of the questions that we have for our current community, people who have been in Peoplestown, is like, how would you like to connect with your new neighbors, and what could that look like?
Additionally, on Saturday, every second Saturday of the month, we attend a community meeting, which actually has the seniors, the lifetimers that have been there, and the new people that are moving into the neighborhood. So we do that. That's one way we're getting the word out and kind of interfacing with them, because that's one meeting a month. But generally it has about 15 to 20 people, and they all are concerned about what's happening in the neighborhood for us as well.
Outstanding. Don't sit down.
So Emmaus House is old enough now that you have generations that have gone through and benefited from. And are there any stories about some of the children that came there and grew up, and where did they go? Did they stay in Peoplestown? Did they leave? And it's being gentrified, and is your audience further out? If you look online, Emmaus House talks about, we serve Peopletown and surrounding communities. And is surrounding communities a bigger part of what you're doing these days? And how has the needs of Peoplestown changed?
Yes. So one thing that I noticed this summer, specifically with Freedom School, is that a number of our kids, probably about 30% or so, were from neighboring communities such as Mechanicsville or Pittsburgh or even further out. You know, word got out about Freedom School, and some parents were dropping their kids off on their way to work downtown. But yes, there are stories of families, of people who have grown up in Peoplestown and went on, have gone to college or pursued a particular profession and are no longer living in the neighborhood. Now, there are some people who grew up in the neighborhood and who are still living in the neighborhood. The director of our after-school program, she grew up in Peoplestown. She went to college, she came back, and she is still in the community and is and will stay in that community because that's where she would like to stay. Her entire family is there. But then we also have folks who have moved away and come back. Your so-called success stories, so to speak. Now, I have to be honest with this, and you know, there are some families who have received the services of Emmaus House for decades, and they still receive those services. And we are happy to provide them with the support that they need, and at the same time, we hope to move them towards self-sufficiency through some of the programs that David Lee was talking about. And I think, David, you can speak a bit more to, I guess, the needs of the community in terms of the services with the Loki Center. Have we seen any changes since you've been there?
The biggest change has been for utility and rental assistance. We probably receive, well, let me back up. We work with Fulton County. We have a Fulton County grant for our Supports for Success program. And it's only for people in Fulton County. So when it says surrounding areas, it takes us out of that Peoplestown neighborhood because it can go all the way from, up north Fulton up to, what's the ending? Wherever Fulton ends that way down south. The challenge is the rental amounts that folks have when they're late or behind in their rents. We get requests for like $5,000, $6,000 for folks. And this is 1 or 2 months for rent, right? So we try to focus on the least expensive area, so to speak, which kind of sort of is still around our neighborhood. But again, we do go outside, further out for that. Mm-hmm.
Everybody good? Yes. Thank you all. And where's Julia? Did she already scoot it out? Yeah, the Cathedral's been, special thanks to the Cathedral and to Julia, who's one of our great champions here. So, George?
Thank you all. Thank you all. Julia is celebrating 11:15, so she's gone to get prepared for that. But we do have a traditional way that we end old-fashioned, which is to say the Lord's Prayer together. So I invite you to stand and join me in saying the Lord's Prayer. And when we get to the line that says, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven," I want you to say a special prayer for Emmaus House. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord. Thanks be to God.